Yeah,
This
so
is
on
the
the WhatsApp
crown
page,
jewel.
so this
I
is
like
this
it.
is people love these WhatsApp tweets. So what's interesting is it doesn't really make a difference. There's no intel. You can't really take action from other people burning WhatsApps. Like you're in the pool until you decide to get out. So there's no action you need to take, and it doesn't really affect your percentage of the pool that much. But just people love to see a little bit of progress, and it's like every day we're getting a few out, and it seems to be a general good feeling for everybody to see some progress. So I'm really interested to see if I think people will have because some people have like more than one WhatsApp, some people might have 15 or 20. So I'm really curious to see if people have like a ladder, and maybe they end one on their birthday every year, or at Christmas every year, or New Year's every year, or is it different patterns, and we can see, well, that wallet is burns one every 3 months, so we can kind of forecast out. So really interested to see that behavior, as we get into 1 year, 2 years of WhatsApp.
Yeah, absolutely. That was something we talked about quite a bit back when you could actually mint Wattses, was like not just putting all of your eggs in one basket and like creating a type of ladder. I know it was very common to make, different sizes in pairs. So like a couple 500 endpoints, and then a couple 1,500, a couple 2,000, that sort of strategy. And then to have specific dates on when you pull those, just like what you're talking about there. And so what would be interesting to see is if people start with their larger Wattses, or if they start with their lower ones on when they decide to burn or not. So yeah, this is one of my favorite pages of yours, Huey's. Has a lot of fantastic information that someday hopefully I'll figure out how to tap into.
Yes, this page updates every hour, and then we also see like the owner and the mentor. So the mentor is whoever minted it, obviously, during the mint phase, and then the owner will be the same if it hasn't been transferred. But some people might have transferred, to a different wallet, or what, on OpenSea or something like that. So we can kind of see if it's the original minter or not. Then we can also see what they sacrificed as well on the charts on the right, so we can see the coin. So Hex and Hedron are colored in there, the USDC and Maxi. So what I'm curious to see is to do like an all-time graph of the different tokens to see which type of minter is the most loyal to their Wattses and which is the least loyal, or is it fluctuating over time?
Yeah, it's such a, I feel like Wattses are not talked about enough for a few reasons. One, you can't mint them anymore. And if you want to acquire them, you either have to win them at a giveaway, not today though, or you have to get them, you have to, essentially overpay at least short-term value on OpenSea or secondary market somewhere. Or somebody just has to give them to you, which I don't imagine happens too often, out of just pure friendship. Shout out to our friend Sami. So there's no chart. Dipcatcher mentioned before, I was talking to him about this. There's no chart to trade Wattses, like a trading view type chart. It's kind of I don't know. Is it good or bad that Wattses are so underground?
I think it's good. I think it's an insider's game. Like honestly, it's an insider's. You had to be there and stock up on them. Like if you get lucky enough to go out and start buying them off of a third party marketplace, you're not really getting the full effect, right? So I mean, this is a long play game for sure. But when we were talking about the whole compounding or not with the Icosa Hedron stakes, like this is the ultimate long game, right? You can't compound these, nor would you want to, because you will never get diluted in this pool. So you would never want to end them to try to, like, you would never want to end and mint your Icosa just so you can go and start compounding 30 or 90-day stakes, right? Like you'll never get a better deal.
Yeah, well, I think also it's interesting if you scroll down to the next dashboard, there's like the points that are existing and the points burned, and it's kind of flat line at first. So these two charts on the top right. So on the left is the total points in the pool, and then on the right is the points burned. So you can kind of see it's kind of flat until like day 160 or 140, and then it's kind of almost linear then. So I think that was around the time when the Watts kind of broke even from their minting cost. So it's almost been linear if you kind of average out the days since then. So it's like a constant rate of burning every day, which I was surprised with. I thought, the Wattses are a long game, as you said, GIF, and it's not about just definitely, I think I didn't expect as much burning before 1 year at least. But I guess people put in their rent money, or they're chasing pumps, and they burn their wattses.
It's pretty amazing the number of burns. I'm the same way, but I think that's just, the lettuce hands need. I don't understand the burning. Again, if you need something, you got financial responsibilities. You got to take care of something. I get it, but people are burning them with Icosa price down, and what has been a bear market for a while, and you can't get them back. And unless you're going to stake, was that a question? I asked somebody this earlier. Oh, maybe I asked in the Telegram. Is it a strategy to burn them to get the Icosa to stake? We have better yield doing that. What do you guys think about that?
No.
Yeah, I think right now, or the last 6 months, it looks appealing to burn your WAATSA and stake it because you can compound. But I think in a couple of months, WAATSAs will be the big winner in staking yield, because the Icosa pool will get so big, and then the WAATSA pool is just getting smaller every day. So it's a game of patience with WAATSA.
Yeah, and there's literally no option for the Godwill to snag a whole bunch of yield from that pool, right? Like we just talked about how they've got he's got these other stakes that he could bend his Hedron in and throw it in the staking pool. We just talked about how you could pull his Icosa yield from the Hedron staking pool and put it into the Icosa staking pool, right? But there's no touchy, as Kool-Aid would say, no touchy on the WAATSA.
I can hear him saying in my head now.
You can hear that, right?
Yes.
So yeah, that's the surefire game right there. If you got your WAATSAs, you hold on to those.
So, I remember during the launch phase when I started doing the analysis on Twitter, I was kind of watching to see, does the big whales come in at the end, and then do you get diluted? So it's just interesting to see that it was capped at like the $21 million that was invested. So that was kind of interesting to see if a big player come in at the end or not. So with the 21 million, I think, yeah, it's a deal. I was getting as many as I could at the time.
What was I going to ask? So you said a couple months. So is that are you talking about the timing of when the seed from the SA winds down and the yield goes down, or what do you think in a couple months is going to be good for Watson and maybe Icosa?
Well, I think with Icosa, there's going to be massive inflation in the pool if people end stake and restake after the 270 days and 360 days. So that pool is going to get very big. And then also the HSI auctions are getting less unless we see an injection again in the next few weeks or months. So that means that the yield will slow down, I think, in Icosa staking, probably Hedron staking as well. But it's the second best chart in crypto, I call it, because the points only go down.
Love it.
What do you think, about the comparison?
Which specifically?
Just what I was saying about I think there's going to be huge inflation in Icosa, so it's appealing now to compound, but actually in the long run, I think WAATSA will beat it.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously, yeah. I think that's 100% correct. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. And anybody who's concerned about it, like I said before, you just check your points, man. Just compare your points. If it's worth compounding, go ahead and compound. If not, then don't. I've always been on the waterfall method. That's something that I've talked about since the beginning. And if you were waterfalling from the beginning, then you weren't really affected by a lot of the stuff, a lot of this, the outside influence that you couldn't control, right? So you were just giving yourself more flexibility. And I think flexibility is key with a lot of this stuff, is you want to be able to make moves if you need to. So keep your options open and keep an eye on the system. Yeah.
Question from Arizona RC. How many watts has been burned since day one? Is there a way to tell that?
Yeah, so I have that data here. So So there was like 28 or 29 were burned during launch. So there was 22,091 was in total, but then after launch it was 20. When the launch phase closed, it was 22,063. So I think 28 were kind of burned during the launch phase, and then since then there's been 783 burned since. So that's one thing I want to add. So I tweet that chart out sometimes on Twitter, but I want to add it to this page as well to give the total stats that's on the to-do list to be added to this page.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was looking for the number, but I didn't see it here. Okay, cool. Anything? Well, maybe we'll look at one more thing on the hex model before we move on to trivia and stuff. What's the next best thing to take a look at?
So I have two things if we have time we can do quickly. So one is on the Hedron page. So I like to look at this because if you move the slider on the left to day 261, or you can just type in where it says 1, if you just type in 261. So if you keep the one on the right to the very end, and then the one on the left, you just type in 261. Where it says
typing. Where do I need to type?
So on this one, you can slide it to the extreme right as far as you can to the end. Yeah, and then if you click on where it says 1, and then if you type in 261.
Oh, should I do it all the way to the left or to the right?
So the one on the right goes all the way to the right, and then the one on the left we want to set to day 261.
Gotcha.
So 261 was, 90 days into the 90 days into. So day 170 was the start of Icosa. So then 90 days was when the auction started. So on the right we can see the Hedron minting and Hedron burning. So we can see that 12.5 trillion was minted, but 8 trillion Hedron was burned. So we're burning around two-thirds of the Hedron that's been minted since the auction started. So I think that's an interesting metric to keep an eye on.
Wow.
So we've only increased by 4.6 trillion Hedron since the auction started. So I think it was around 112 trillion when the auction started in November, and now we're around 117.
So what kind of impact do you think that's made? Do you think the Hedron price would be lower had the auctions not burnt to 8 trillion?
Well, like everything in Hedron and Icosa, everything is very nuanced, and there's a lot of factors at play. But I think it's just interesting that we're burning a good deal of what's been minted. So even though people are minting it to buy more HSIs or minting for various reasons, at the moment we're burning through a good deal of that. So I'm kind of curious to see after the the next 3 or 4 months, and after that, how many auctions are in the pool. So then the second thing I wanted to cover was the HSI auctions page. So this kind of shows the how many HSIs are in the pool. So we see there's a big day coming up in a day or two, and after May there isn't very many auctions here. So you can kind of use this to kind of gauge what days will be big yield or good for bidding in the auctions. And what also could be used for people is if you click the bonus filter, and then if you unselect the 0, so you might be only interested in HSIs that have a Hedron bonus, so you can use this to kind of see what days those ones are coming up.
Can I click off?
Yes, you just need to click anywhere on the dashboard, and that will kind of get rid of the filter.
That's
on the white. So if you click on anywhere on the white, that's not part of that drop down.
Okay.
Yeah, and then there's a little reset buttons that kind of appear different places as well. So I think you might have filtered something else as well, but I think there was like 400 teachers in there that had a Hedron bonus.
Yeah, I was filtering on April 22nd, I believe.
Yeah.
So 10.
So yes, you can just select them all and then unselect the 0, and you can kind of see how many have a Hedron bonus.
Oh, should I add everything but 0?
Yeah, so it depends on what your strategy is. You might only want a 10x, but you also might want a 9x or a 7x, or there's some 3x there as well. So this kind of shows you, how many Hedron bonus HSIs are in the auction pool.
That's cool.
And then also what might be interesting is if you look at the table, if you click on stake T-shares, you can then sort by descending of stake T-shares. So we can kind of see there's a big one coming up on the 22nd with, the 1200 T-share one is, which doesn't have a bonus, so it's not showing now, but if we put in the 0 bonus ones, there's some big ones in there as well. So we can sort this by ascending or descending as well.
Dude, that's great. I actually want to use that.
And then we have a date range filter as well. If you're looking at, the past, future, different things like that.
So this is showing, just want to say this is showing the biggest T-shared ones coming up for auction, but and their bonuses as well. So no bonus on this, but big T-shares. Have we seen them being valued differently for, with the HSIs with 10x bonuses versus 0?
So I haven't done a deep dive analysis on it, but it looks like the bonus isn't a big factor in the price.
Figured it wouldn't be. I mean, it should be logically, but I figured people wouldn't be paying much attention to it.
The interesting part is when you get into the lower T-share HSIs that have the bonus on those ones are actually getting quite the premium in the auction. Like those are getting bid up quite high. When you start to get into the larger HSIs, maybe not so much, but the ones that were the look at that.
I know. Good luck, everyone.
The one that Huey had mentioned, like the 3x multipliers, there's a bunch of those in there that a whale had created for the system, and those still go for a higher premium. You won't get quite the discount on those as you would the others.
So we got some pros bidding from time to time. Very cool. Dude, this is awesome. Again, I mean, every time we use Hex model, we're like, thanks to FUE, but seriously, dude, like this is great. Super helpful for the community.
Yeah, so if